What is going on, YouTube people? Northeast Ohio Cards and Comics here. Today, on the desktop, we are going to go through the top 10 comic books in my collection. Now, it's not meant as a flex, a show off, or whatever. It's more personal documentation for myself, for the comic book collection that I have built over the last year plus, and to kind of see where I sit at the end of 2021, the beginning of 2022. So in a year from now, I can do a similar thing and go back. This is essentially a time capsule for me. And I recommend, whether you have a YouTube channel or not, I think this is a very good exercise to do if you're looking at building a collection out of whatever it is, sports cards, comics, whatever. You know, just document where you're at, and then it just makes it fun to go back a year later and look and see, like, oh, look what I had last year and look what I've added this year and all that. Now, these aren't necessarily the 10 most valuable books in the collection, though a lot of them are. But there are definitely a couple in here that I have stuff that is worth more money. So it's more, do I really like the cover? That sort of stuff. So it's not necessarily just the 10 most expensive books. So with all that being said, like, comment, subscribe. Let's go ahead and dive in. And once again, these are in no particular order, though I'm going to do mostly SpiderMan stuff first and then mostly mutant stuff second, because the mutant stuff just means more to me. And it's all Marvel stuff. Anyone that's watched the channel for a while knows I am 100% a Marvel fanboy, not big on most of the DC stuff. So let's go ahead and dive in. First up, a book I just acquired, and this was the slot that honestly, so we'll call this number 10, I guess. This was the slot that could have been anything. There was a bunch of different books I could have slotted into this one. I just put this one in here because I just got it. There's actually one coming in the mail to me that would replace this one in a heartbeat. So the 10 slot was the most loosey-goosey of all these. There's a bunch of different X-Men covers I could have put in here. And I went with the one that I just got, Web of Spider-Man #1. Cool custom label. There is nothing key about this book, really. I think it's a very, very minor key. But it is just an absolutely classic black suit cover. Very affordable. I got this for about $250. They go for about that. I think the current valuation on it is like $260. And like I said, I just got this in, so this was a Facebook pickup. Cool custom label. I'm a sucker for a custom label. The custom CGC labels, they do a really good job. I mean, just look at how cool that custom label looks with Spider-Man swinging over a sketched out New York City. But yeah, Web of Spider-Man #1, just a classic black suit cover. I've been kind of on a quest for a lot of the black suit key covers. I'm still missing a couple, but this was a very minor one, very affordable. And like I said, this slot in this list could have been literally 10 different books, mostly classic X-Men covers, or what I view as classic X-Men covers. But I wanted to balance it out a little bit with some Spider-Man stuff. Continuing on that train, and once again, we're going to kind of see a theme here. Secret Wars #8, the origin story of the symbiote. Classic cover, not a rare book at all. There's a ton of these on the CGC census. I think there's like 4,000 of these on the CGC census, which is pretty high, even for comic book standards. But this is a classic cover. Everyone wants this book. Everyone wants to have this in their collection. If you're a Spider-Man fan, a symbiote fan, whatever. But this is the origin story of the symbiote. I picked this up about a year ago for $600, I think. $625. Currently go for about $700. So slightly up on this one. Not too bad. Once again, just an iconic cover and kind of one that everyone needs in their collection. If you're a Spider-Man fan, just looking to kind of build things out, a very affordable key issue with a cool cover, cool display piece that you could pick up for a reasonable amount of money in the grand scheme of things. A little bit on the more modern side, but still Spider-Man adjacent, if you will. And the one that I've actually lost the most on this year, talked about it in a video last week, Ultimate Fallout 4 second print, first appearance of Miles Morales. I got this for just under $1,000, $975, about a year ago almost, right in, actually probably February, I think it was. I forget the purchase date on this. These are currently going for about $650, $650-ish, $600, $650-ish. Mileage may vary. Once again, the second print, the unique thing about this is showing his face. On the first print, his face is shadowed out and you can't see it. It's behind the Ultimate Fallout 4 or Ultimate Fallout banner, if you will. Very affordable, especially if you're a big Miles fan. The first print still goes for around $3,000. That got up to $4,000 during the peak. That has pulled back as well. Once again, this was just a matter of me buying this at completely the wrong time. But this is definitely leveled out around that $600 and some mark. If you're a big Miles fan and you don't have a ton of money to put into a book, you could go with something like this or a CGC 9.6 of the first print. That was my debate when I bought this. I chose this one because, frankly, I just like the cover better. Now, that might not make the most sense for investment purposes, but I really like the cover on the second print better because you actually get to see Miles' face. So definitely a modern key. If you're going to go for ultra modern like this, I would highly recommend sticking to 9.8s as much as possible. You know, the 9.6 on the first print might be the one exception to that. What I view as the sister book to that is the first appearance of Spider-Gwen, Edge of the Spider-Verse #2. Once again, I purchased this about a year ago, early January. I think I snagged this. I paid $1,100 for this. It's currently at about $1,250, give or take. Decent population on this, not a ton. But Spider-Gwen, very popular character. There's a new Into the Spider-Verse movie coming out. Spider-Gwen is one of my favorite non-X-Men characters. I just really enjoyed the portrayal in Into the Spider-Verse. And Haley Steinfeld, the actress that plays Kate Bishop, is the voice actress for Gwen Stacy. So that's kind of a fun little fact there. But huge modern key. I was glad to knock this one out early. I don't plan on letting this go anywhere. Cool display piece, cool cover where you get to see kind of like all three versions of Gwen Stacy as Spider-Gwen. I think this one has a lot of room to go up. I think she's going to come to live action at some point in time, and this book will go crazy as she does have a very cult following in regards to fan base. So a little bit more expensive, but I think this one has a ton of room to go way up in value. I think this is the last of the Spider-Man ones. Yeah. And my favorite Spider-Man book in my collection. That's ASM 252. This is the first appearance of the actual symbiote suit. So the way that this played out is the symbiote suit appeared on him in this issue. He comes back from Secret Wars, but Secret Wars, that issue hadn't come out yet. So it's just kind of one of those weird things. A couple months later, the actual Secret Wars #8 came out with the origin story of where he got the suit. So the first appearance of the suit actually happens before the origin story of the suit. Now, there is a second book that goes in tandem with this. It's Marvel Team Up. I forget the issue number. It's him and Daredevil on the cover. Came out the same month as this, but this one is the more desirable one. Maybe one day I'll pick that one up. This one goes for a decent amount more. I bought this once again last year, I think in January. This was one of the first expensive ones that I bought. I paid about $1,500 for this. It currently goes for about $1,700, $1,800. Decently low on the census. I think there's like 1,800 of these in a CGC 9.8. This is from 1984, this book. Once again, I love this cover. It's an absolutely classic cover. It's an homage to Amazing Fantasy 15. Cool black suit cover. Decently lowish on the census. It's not super high because it's from 84. And there is newsstands versions of this. I'm not a newsstand person. I do not chase newsstand covers. I don't care. I understand they hold more value, but I actually don't like the way the barcode looks on a lot of them, and I don't want to pay the premium for them. So it is what it is. Might not be the smartest play in the world, but I don't really care. But absolutely iconic cover. This one, if I've said it before, I'll say it again. Depending on what ends up happening with the MCU stuff, and I won't spoil anything here, but if Tom Holland does more movies and we eventually find a way to get him in a symbiote suit, this will be the one that goes absolutely bonkers. Secret Wars #8 would do pretty good too, but the problem with that is there's a million of them, so it would go up, but it wouldn't probably go up quite as quickly. Switching the gears to X-Men, and it's basically mutants from here on out. Probably my favorite X-Men cover. If you're just talking about covers, X-Men #11, not the most valuable book in the world. Iconic Jim Lee X-Men cover. Just fantastic looking. Not very expensive. I bought this in 2020, actually, for $125. It currently goes for like 170, 175, give or take. Not a key issue at all. There is nothing special about this other than the fact it is an absolutely iconic X-Men cover. And this is the X-Men that I grew up with. You know, got in the comics in the early 90s. 1991 is when I bought my first comic book off a newsstand. And it was the era that Jim Lee X-Men started. And I was immediately in love. This is also very closely the same character cast from the X-Men cartoon, other than Psylocke. It's pretty much the X-Men cartoon, and it's just a gorgeous cover. There is a variant to this that came from a board game. This part is silver. I would love to have one day, but it is very expensive. They usually go for around 900 to $1,000, I think. They're very rare. But absolutely iconic cover. If you're a huge X-Men fan, once again, this is a perfect book. This is not the most expensive thing in the world. It's very reasonable. But if you're a big X-Men fan and you're not into comic books that much and you just want an awesome display piece, this for $175 or whatever, you know, the current market rate is, you can't go wrong with. Will this go up? Probably slowly and slightly. There's a lot of them, but a lot of people view it as a classic cover. It's one that everyone wants in their collection. So there's always a lot on the demand side for that. Next up, going a little classic X-Men, Uncanny XMen 129, an absolutely mega X-Men key. I chased this one for a really long time. I thought I missed the boat on it because this got super pricey. 9/8 of these were going for $7,000 to $8,000 during the peak. 9/6s were going for a hefty amount as well. They have come down quite a bit. I got this 9/6 just recently. I bought this about 2 months ago, maybe a month and a half ago. I paid $10.50 for it, got it from A1 Comics. The current valuation on it is still $10.50. It really hasn't changed much. The reason this one's super popular, one, it is a really cool cover. So just a really good cover. Two, it is a key issue in the Dark Phoenix Saga run. Three, there's a billion first appearances in this book, and that's the reason why it holds a ton of value. It's the first appearance of Kitty Pryde, which is Shadowcat. First appearance of the White Queen, which is Emma Frost, Sebastian Shaw, and Mastermind. So you have those four key characters, two of those being mega keys, Kitty Pryde and Emma Frost. You get the Hellfire Club, an absolutely classic X-Men, you know, villain / foil team. Mastermind and Sebastian Shaw as minor keys, and, you know, key cover, key story arc, the whole 9 yards. I was very happy to add this one in. I got this in a combo deal with another lesser X-Men book. And saved a little bit of money on it, but was very happy to get this one knocked away. I usually like to go 9/8 as much as possible. This one, it just wasn't possible. I just did not want to spend the amount that it would take to knock that away in a 9/8. Mutants, but not X-Men. Poster child for the channel. I've talked about this book probably more than any other because it was the first big key that I bought. It was this one, and then I bought Edge of the Spider-Verse #2. New Mutants 98. CGC 9.8, and this is also one of the ones that I've done the best on. I bought this last January, very early in January, $1,200. I thought I was a crazy person for paying $1,200 for this, but I went with my gut and it paid off. This is currently up to $1,800. At one point, this was a $3,000 book, or mid to high twos. It's come down from its peak, which pretty much everything has, not surprisingly, but the new floor on it has been $1,800. It's been $1,800 for a couple months now. Decent census on this. It's like 3,400, I think, but the demand for this book is insane. Everybody wants one. Absolutely cool cover. I got lucky and got a custom label for it on the one that I bought with Deadpool, please breaking the fourth wall and asking for a 9.9, which I find amusing. But just great book. Huge demand for this. And once again, we don't even have Deadpool trailer, news, anything, other than the fact that he is probably coming to the MCU. And when we get a trailer or something with him in, you know, a tease, maybe he shows up in Multiverse of Madness, who knows? This one will probably go wild. Ryan Reynolds' portrayal of Deadpool is one of the best things that we have in superheroes, in my opinion. Deadpool 1 and 2 were amazing, especially the first Deadpool. But yeah, absolutely iconic book, a must-have in anyone's, especially if you're big into the 90s stuff, which I am. Absolutely fantastic book. Glad to have this one locked away. And I think it does have room to go up if you can get it at the $1,800 price point. Next, probably one of my other favorite X-Men covers, and I think one that's pretty underrated, though it has gone up since I got mine. I got this back in March, I think, and took me forever to find this. X-Men 133. Once again, we had 129 earlier. This is a continuation of the Dark Phoenix saga. Wolverine's first solo story. This is the book that put Wolverine on the map. It was famous that they didn't really know what to do with Wolverine. He was they just didn't know what to do with him. Then they wrote this story, and then he became ultra popular, essentially. This entire story is basically him fighting his way through the basement of the Hellfire Club, basically messing up these little goons along the way. Absolutely iconic cover. This is probably, I know X-Men 11 is my favorite X-Men cover. This is one of my favorite covers, period, full stop. I tried to find this. I wanted this in a 9.8. I really wanted this in a 9.8. It is pretty low on the census in a 9.8. I think it's under 1,000. It might even be under like 400. I don't remember exactly, but there's not a ton of these out there in a CGC 9.8. Got this back in March for $800-ish bucks, $820, $825. I think I paid for it. They currently go for about $1,200. I actually think that's very reasonable, and I would be a buyer if I was looking for one at or around that price point. Like I said, solo Wolverine story, classic cover, classic storyline. It's not necessarily a key issue. This is all a play for the cover and the story. But I was very happy to knock this one away. Like I said, when I was looking for this in a 9.8, it took me about 2 to 3 months to find one to come up for sale. They just do not come up very often. And even still, I actually still have the eBay save search for this book, and they don't pop up often at all. So 2 left to go, and it's the 2 big boys. Anyone that's watched the channel for a while knows what these 2 are going to be. First up is Giant Size X-Men number 1, 7.0, white pages. Picked this up about 2 months ago, 3 months ago. Was thrilled to knock this one off the list. As an X-Men fan, this is a must. I got it in a little nicer grade than I expected. Also, the white pages is a nice little bonus. The only downside to this book is it does have a little bit of a spine roll, which is common on this because it's so thick. This is a much thicker book than a regular comic book. And what I mean by spine roll is you can see the spine on the left here does not sit flush. It's rolled a little bit to the right. There might be a more technical term for that, but so you could see the stuff on the edge a little bit there. It bugs me a little bit, but overall I am happy with it. Once again, to have this in a 7.0, which is a relatively higher grade for this book. I paid $4,600 for this. Last sale on a 7.0 was $4,400, but I think that was cream to off-white or off-white to white. I don't remember. And on this, when you get into this grade, presentation matters a lot. This one does present well other than the spine roll. I have seen some other 7.0s that have some staining or some other visible stuff on the cover. This one does not have that. The color is really good on this, as you can see in the video. The white is really nice as well. Sometimes this white will get like yellowed or creamy to a degree. Mine has not done that. It's held up very well. And like I said, the colors are very vibrant. So I was very happy to knock this one out. I got this on a Facebook deal, $4,600. And it has basically stayed dead flat since I bought it. During the peak, it was much higher. This was one of the ones that post-peak, I said, let me knock this out and knock this off the list. This was on my short list of major key books that I would like to own one day. And the fact that I was able to knock 2 of them off in the same year is absolutely amazing. The second one that I was able to get was the one I just recently got, and I've talked about a ton. That is Hulk 181. Mine's a CGC 6.5 in white pages. Just the fact that I'm holding this is awesome. I never thought I would, I shouldn't say never, but I never thought I would have one of these anytime soon, let alone in this high of a grade. Now, 6.5 isn't like super high, but in this book, that's pretty good. This one set me back $5,500. Once again, told the story about how I acquired this one, so I won't go into long details here. I just bought this a month ago-ish, month and a half ago. It's held value. It has not changed at all since then. You know, it could go down a little bit. It could go up a little bit. I don't really care. This is an ultimate long-term hold for me. This is like a vintage baseball card or a basketball card or football card, essentially. It's a book that everyone wants. There are a decent amount on the census, but once again, 6.5 white pages. To get this in a white pages is an added bonus. This was one, it was a higher grade and more than I wanted to spend on this book. When I originally set out to get this late in the year, and I decided like, hey, I think I had the money set aside, and I was like, do I want to buy a bunch of small stuff or I want to knock one of these big ones off? And I decided to knock a big one off. And I started looking for it, and this popped up, and it just spoke to me. This particular copy of this book just spoke to me. I looked at a lot in like the 4s to 6s, and even some 6.5s, and this presented so well in a 6.5 that I just decided I had to have it. The reds are absolutely outstanding. Once again, in this book, this red will sometimes be a little wonky, and you'll see color fade in here. This does not have that. And I'm no comic book grader. The only big knock on this is there is some color break there, you could see. And there's a little crease there, but it doesn't really color break, or if it does, you can't notice it. You know, a little bit of a mark there. It's got some spine ticks, sure, which you'd 100% expect on a 6.5. You can see it right there, a little color break spine tick, but nothing crazy. Once again, when you put it like this, how it would sit on a table, and that's even close up, you know, under good lighting and a 4K camera, you know, it still looks really good even at just that distance. You can see the spine ticks just a little teeny tiny bit, but I know that they're there. But you really can't see a little bit there on the purple pants. You can see the color break, but you can't see that crease up here at all. And even the back looks pretty good. You know, very solid back, no big stains, a little bit of color mark here, but you don't really care. It's the back. No one sees it. So once again, to knock this one off the list was a major achievement this year. I don't think I'll add anything this big next year. Not so much that I don't think I could afford it or get it or whatever. It's just more that there's not much that I'm looking for this high end. I mean, would I like to have an X-Men #1 one day? Sure. But they're super expensive, and I don't know that that's in the cards next year. Like a 1.0 of X-Men #1 is like $8,000, and this at $5,000 or $5,500 was more than enough for me to dive into. So that's my list. We'll see where it goes next year. I already have one. Like I said, it's on the way to me. I'll be doing a separate video on it, probably sometime this week or next week, because I have an angle that I want to take with it to specifically discuss it. That would 100% slide into this. It would knock that Web of the Spider-Man slot out. 100% for sure. Now, how many books do I want to add to this? I don't know. You know, like how many will, that's the interesting part, and that's the reason why I wanted to do this. When I make this same list next year, how many new things slot into here? Like I said, I already know of one, 100% that would slot into here. Beyond that, you know, it would be, you know, some of the lower stuff would go out. You know, like the X-Men 11 would probably be the next one to go, as much as I love the cover. Maybe the Ultimate Fallout 4 second print would get dropped. I don't know. We'll see. It depends on what gets added in. We'll see where it goes from here. But like I said, I already have one coming that I know would slot in. So hope you guys and girls enjoyed this one. Let me know in the comments down below what was the one major key thing that you added to your collection, whether it was comic books or cards this past year. Smash the like button while you're down there. Subscribe if you haven't, and we will catch you guys and girls on the next one. Peace.